In this episode, we'll discover 5 powerful listening techniques that transform how you connect with your spouse on a deeper level. Are you tired of your marriage not growing? You're not alone. Welcome to Why Your Marriage Isn't Growing, a podcast helping couples reignite their relationship, break free from the trap of just getting along, and rediscover the joy and passion they once had. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Why Your Marriage Isn't Growing. Hi, my name is Greg.
My name is Carolyn. In this episode, you'll discover why true listening is a sacred act that goes beyond just hearing words, how to create emotional safety in your communication where intimacy can flourish, and a practical 3-step method to make your spouse feel truly understood, perhaps for the first time.
That is amazing. And the stakes and the opportunity that many marriages slowly deteriorate, not from dramatic conflicts, but from the subtle erosion of feeling unheard and unseen. What if learning to truly listen could resolve issues you've been struggling with for years? That would be a wonderful thing.
Why true listening is a sacred act that goes beyond just hearing words.
That's a good point.
So what it is, sacred listening is giving your full presence, mind, body, and spirit to truly understand your spouse's experience rather than formulating responses or solutions while they speak.
Which goes to that thing where it says you should take about 10 seconds and breathe before you actually respond. Don't just blurt it out as soon as that person speaks without taking some time to assess what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
A true listening skill.
So let's talk about why it's important. Proverbs 20, verse 5 said, "The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out." When we listen at this level, we honor the image of God in our spouse and create space for authentic connection.
And we talked about something like that in a previous podcast. If God was sitting right before you right now, what would he think about your response if you were to respond without listening clearly? And he was sitting right there in front of you, which segues us into point number 2, because definitely these points matter because they're practical steps that can help you in this 3-step method to make your spouse feel truly understood, perhaps for the first time. That's a good one. And basically what that looks like is the reflection is inquire, but validate.
I know you always do that.
Every time when I try to say the words, you always correct me, and that's a good thing. Basically, that's a method of sacred listening that creates emotional safety and profound connection. I just want to share with the audience, don't be afraid to be corrected by your spouse. That's what they're for.
Right.
It's called the help me.
Right.
She's there to help you. He's there to help you. We're supposed to be in this together.
Right.
That's why it's so important that you become a good listener. Be slow to speak, quick to listen. Because in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21, Paul calls us to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. True submission begins with understanding before being understood, a spiritual discipline that transforms marriages. We could probably shut the podcast off and just go on that alone, going out and listening to the spiritual guidance coming from the Bible. This is probably the reason why a lot of Christian marriages are failing. So that's why we wanted to give you all of these practical steps that we know that if you really are concerned and want to change your marriage for the better, you will start to do these.
So you want to practice the RIV method during your meaningful conversation.
What's the RIV method again?
Reflect, inquire, and validate.
Wow.
That's your RIV. So let's talk about reflect. Paraphrase what you heard without judgment.
Ask a curious follow-up question to go deeper. How did that make you feel? Or what was most important about that for you? And Carolyn and I often do this. We always ask, because we always want to know the why behind the what. You said this for a reason. what is the reason behind what you said?
So that's when we talk about validate.
Yes.
Acknowledge the legitimacy of their feelings, regardless of whether
Do you agree? Well,
regardless of whether you agree. I can understand why you would feel that way, or that makes sense.
you know what? And these are some seriously good points to take by, because a lot of times people want to major and minor instead of just looking at it from a simplistic perspective. And marriage is not complicated and deep. What happens is a lot of people miss the boat because I think that they take the simple out. They should reflect back on what you did in the beginning when you first start dating that person. And that's a topic that we'll probably talk about in some up and coming episodes, or why it's so important that you date the person continually throughout the marriage. So you have to listen with a spiritual ear. See, there's one thing to listen with a regular ear, and then there's a spiritual ear.
I'm going to sum this up. Sacred listening isn't just a communications technique. It's a spiritual practice that honors the divine image in your spouse. When you listen with your whole heart, you create holy ground in your marriage where God's transformative presence can heal wounds and deepen love.
That's a mouthful right there. It says when you create a ground in your marriage where God's transformative presence can heal wounds, that means you have allowed God to come into the mix. You haven't excluded him from that. You've included him. And that's what I think the reason why a lot of marriages are being broken and not working is because they've excluded God when you should be including him in everything. It's in everything, include God.
Okay, so let's do a recap. We explore why listening is a sacred act that honors God's image in our spouse.
Okay. We learn the reflect, unique, validate method for profound understanding, the RIV. So when somebody says, what's the RIV? Or we say that to you, what is the RIV?
RIV is reflect, inquire, and validate.
Very good. True listening creates emotional safety where intimacy can flourish. Now look at that. Because before I learned about what true intimacy was, I thought that having sex with my partner was true intimacy. I couldn't have been so further
From the truth.
right.
And sacred listening is one of the greatest gifts you can give your married.
Now listen to what we're saying here. Listening, have an ear to hear, be slow to speak. And the Bible is clear about that when it says be slow to speak, quick to listen, become a listener. I'm saying that from my perspective as well as yours, because I was the person that was always quick to like, it's got to be my way or the highway. Why aren't you listening to me? Didn't you hear what I said? Why is it so important that we do everything that you say? How come all of these negative connotations when we could have just, or I could have just took time, took a deep breath
And listen.
and listen. So we know that we don't have the be all do all, but what we have did is we've come up with solutions and we're sharing them with you on a weekly basis. And we just want to thank you for joining us today, because I know you could have been anywhere, but you decided to come here and listen to us. And our new episodes release every Monday and Thursday. So be sure to follow us wherever you're listening to podcasts. If this message helped you see listening in a new light, please share it out with anyone and everyone so everyone could understand the importance of listening, whose marriage might benefit from these insights. So as I always say at the end of each broadcast, I'll let my wife end it with what I usually say.
To God be the glory.
Oh, yes. Jesus is Lord.
Yes, he
We
is.
look forward to seeing you on the next episode.